Hi guys, it's Carisa, and I have a vlog for you today on a sensitive topic, but it's something that I have decided I want to talk about. And if you are watching this video and you do not know me, and you only just happened to click on it because of the title of the video, or it came up suggested to you in some way, I strongly urge you to look back on my story and just get an idea of who I am as a person. Just to give yourself some perspective. I realize that I may easily sound like I was a victim in this, but there is a lot more to it, and that's why I've decided to talk about it. Mike and I decided to treat ourselves to a vacation because even though we have probably a lot of future medical bills to have to deal with in regards to more attempts to conceive a child, we can't wait for that forever. It just became very apparent to us that we needed to be good to ourselves, and one small vacation wouldn't be that detrimental financially to our future bills and financial hardship. So we decided that that was something that we wanted to do for ourselves. It was something to look forward to. It was something to kind of take our minds off of the fact that we were feeling sad and that we're still struggling with that, and we try not to focus too much on it in the day-to-day, but it definitely brings us down. I have not been as dedicated to the diet as I was prior to the pregnancy and loss, but I'm trying to give myself time, and I'm not trying to pressure myself too much because there's very little I find joy in anymore, and it's a terrible excuse to try and find that joy in food, but every now and then that's all there is. And sometimes Mike and I can't even comfort each other the way a small bowl of ice cream can, just because we've been doing it for so long and we hurt so much. We decided to go to Atlantic City because it was driving distance and it's something that we have never experienced. Unfortunately, neither of us knew very much about it, and it turned out to not be quite what we were expecting or hoping for, because we're not really big gamblers and we were more interested in kind of exploring the area, and some of the areas were a little unsavory and not places that we would recommend others go to on this type of a vacation. One of the places we went was the boardwalk outside of Caesar's Palace, and that should be an area that is fine to visit, and it caused a little bit of an upset, and it's the reason that this video is being made. So prior to going to the boardwalk, I put on a dress, and this is something that I have been trying to do lately, is dress outside of my comfort zone and embrace the weight that I have lost that allows me to wear things that I truly don't think that I would have been comfortable in or would have fit in properly prior to losing the amount of weight that I have already. Just because even though it's a small amount of weight, a significant amount of it was in my stomach, and that limited me a lot in terms of what I could wear and what I felt comfortable in. I was wearing a dress. Mike had complimented me up and down, and we went to a Mexican restaurant in Tropicana, and it was really good. And we weren't following our diet, we were just enjoying our vacation. It was so early in the vacation too, that it just made it feel like, how could it get any better than this? We were just having so much fun and enjoying each other's company so much. And we already enjoy each other's company a lot and have a lot of fun together, but this felt like there was no weight to it anymore. We could just really let go and laugh and truly feel happy for a change. And I don't mean to be dramatic about it, but some of those thoughts were going through my head while we were having dinner. Just how much I appreciate my husband and how good it felt for us to both finally feel good for the first time in a long time and really feel like we had no fear in our lives and we could just let all of our stress go. So we left the restaurant and we were walking down the boardwalk, and we were headed to a store to purchase some gifts for my nieces and for family back home when we were returned from the trip. And it was at the end of the boardwalk. As we were walking down, we were laughing and having a good time, and there were two men on the other side of the boardwalk walking in the opposite direction. I know they noticed us laughing, and I felt their eyes on us, but I just didn't think anything of it until we had passed them, and one of the men started shouting, "Congratulations." And he got aggressive about it. He shouted it a few times, and we had assumed that he wasn't talking to us, but he at one point said, "Hey," really angrily, actually, and Mike turned around, but I did not, and we were still walking, but he said, "Congratulations," and Mike just kind of turned around and didn't really acknowledge him. And he said, "She's having a baby, right?" Well, that's rough, but that happens. It happens. People make that assumption, and somehow in this day and age, people have not learned to not say things like that. I knew that he wasn't sincere. I could tell that the fact that he was being so forceful about getting our attention was his way of being rude. I would have been hurt enough at that point, but he followed it up with saying, "She is having a baby, right? Or is she just fat?" And he shouted it. The word fat was the loudest word of all the words he said. And we had continued to walk, and at this point, Mike wasn't looking at him anymore. And I knew that those men had set out to just ruin our time and make us both feel awful. I think in different circumstances, Mike would have been very likely to confront them and say something. But just totally judging a book by its cover here, these were two men looking for a fight. They were antagonizing people on purpose, and I am positive that I wasn't the first or last woman that he said that to that night. Mike was so heartbroken that happened, and he kept apologizing to me as if it was somehow his fault. And the truth is, the only person's fault it is mine. I know that as harsh and cruel as that statement was, it was something that just anyone else could possibly be thinking. People who know me personally and love me, they think I'm fat. I know these weren't men who would have apologized had I said, "Actually, we just lost a baby and we're pretty hurt, and that's why we're on vacation." But thanks for pointing it out. But if I had to guess, these men were just complete dirtbags, and they really enjoyed that moment. And if that's what gives them pleasure in life, I can only judge them for that. Well, here's where this was upsetting for me, more than anything else. Yes, I felt beautiful that night. I felt happy. I felt good about myself for the first time in a long time. And I felt confident. But I'm ashamed to admit the reason why I felt that way was because most of the women on that boardwalk were poorly dressed and much heavier than I am. And I was basing my self-worth on the fact that I was smaller than a lot of the women there and was more covered up and felt like I had room to be less self-conscious because they should have been more self-conscious. And that's when I determined that I was no better than those men, and that I was no better than anyone else that I know or who may think that I'm fat and who won't tell me to my face. Because I was making those same judgments about other people and using it to gauge how much I should or shouldn't feel ashamed or good about my own body. And that's not okay. I don't normally think that just because a woman is technically heavier than me or has a larger dress size or any of that is reason for me to believe that I am better looking than them or that I should be happier with my condition. But that particular day, I do remember taking note of the other women on the boardwalk and thinking that I was surprised that some of them felt so confident wearing bathing suits or having very little clothing on, tube tops or, whatever it was that they were wearing, considering their size. I know in a lot of ways that's human nature to just think, maybe some people seem like they're being indecent wearing one thing when the same thing on a different person looks perfectly fine. And that gets into a whole lot of different social constructs and things that I don't really need to discuss, because the bottom line is I was being a dirtbag too. And I didn't even know it. I didn't even realize it. I went to bed really sad that night, mostly for Mike, because I don't like to be in a physical state where someone can insult me and have it be that valid. Because I know you can be called fat at any size. You can be called fat for any reason. And a lot of women call themselves fat regardless of any of that. Some women who have perfectly good bodies, some women who have nothing to complain about, they still find things to nitpick and to feel down about. And that's really sad. But these men who said that I was fat to my husband, who loves me so dearly, didn't know who they were talking to. Because my husband's the kind of man who doesn't like me to say that I'm fat. He'll stop me, he'll cut me off, and he will angrily say, "Stop talking about my wife that way." It's my sincere hope that none of those other women who were walking on the boardwalk that day and hopefully having just as good a time as I was ended up hearing what I heard from those men. I hope they got enough satisfaction out of ruining our evening that night for a few hours to not have hurt anyone else. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you, because it's embarrassing on a few different levels, and there were things about it that I didn't really want to admit, but it's something that I think is important to say and important to put out there, because it can change a few people's minds about a few different things, and I guess that's really all that matters. If I could prevent it, I wouldn't want anyone to ever be called anything that hurts their feelings, but unfortunately that's how the world is. I don't care what your motivation is to improve your life and improve your health, but I hope it's not to appease strangers, and that includes jerks like me. So thank you again. I will talk to you guys soon.